Now, joining us here in our makeshift studio in Compassion HQ, Compassion UK HQ, is the CEO, Justin Dowds. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning.
Now, first of all, thank you for having us here, because this is a beautiful office. It's an incredible place that you've got. But before we ask about that, I want to jog your memory a bit. Do you remember when we first met? I bet you probably don't, do you?
Well, I think it was in Manchester, actually.
It was in Manchester.
At an event for a wonderful organisation called Message Trust.
What a memory you've got, because I was scared that you may leave us hanging there and think, actually, Gareth, I don't have a clue who you are now. Never mind back then. But it was a very interesting conversation that we had. So it was in the car park of, well, where was it?
Just, was it Old Trafford?
That was it, yeah. It was Old Trafford Cricket Ground. Yeah. And we got talking, and you were driving back home, which I think home then was Scotland. Is that right?
No.
Where were you?
I live just near Southampton in a little town called Alton.
Did you live there then?
Yeah.
And you were driving back, bearing in mind it was about 11 o'clock at night, I remember, and Absolutely. You had about a 5-hour drive ahead of you.
I did, indeed. and you kept talking to me. And I'm like, I've got a long drive here, and you kept going.
So it was because of that conversation Absolutely. That this partnership happened. Mm-hmm. And I say this so often on the radio that we're so grateful. It's a privilege that you have joined with us, because we know that a reputable charity and an organisation like Compassion, they could have their choice of people to work with. So the fact that you're with us, thank you first of all. And we enjoy this so much. We enjoy meeting your team and hearing about the great work that you're doing. And it all started from a late night meeting in a Manchester car park.
Absolutely.
Which, saying it out loud, does sound very, very dodgy, I'll be honest with you. So tell us, first of all, about your journey, because you came from the medical profession, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was a pharmacist. Yes. Actually, I always wanted to be a doctor, but I just could not pass English. So, the next best thing I could do was pharmacy or dentistry. So I was offered positions at both and had the opportunity to become a pharmacist. So yeah, I served for a decade, really, in various communities throughout Scotland as a pharmacist, something I really enjoyed. And then obviously had the opportunity to serve overseas as a pharmacist in some challenging contexts in Haiti.
And do you think it was that maybe sparked your passion to help people who were struggling with poverty?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I grew up in Dunfermline. My father's a pastor. And my mother and father always raised me with a sense of making sure that we were looking out for those who were less fortunate than ourselves. They didn't come from well-off background at all. So I had that as my upbringing, my shaping, and obviously some really great leaders in our church who were discipling me from a very young age. So I had that sense of it was important to look out for those who were less fortunate than ourselves, and that which I had been entrusted with, I should seek to share with those who were around me. So I think that, and then working as a pharmacist and really seeing some of the brokenness in some of the communities in which I served, and the opportunity to serve in Haiti really allowed God to take me on a journey, I think.
And you must have a lot of stories from your time in Haiti, where as a person from the medical profession who wants to help people, you must have seen where actually there's not much that me alone I can do here. It's a lot bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important actually not to turn up in a community. I think sometimes as a pharmacist, there is this desire that you've got to make a personal difference, okay? But I think it's really important when we have the opportunity to serve in communities that we take the time to figure out what's already happening here. What is the Lord already doing in this community? And how are the local community already coming together to meet the needs of those who are in poverty or in need, so that you're seeking to come alongside that, support that, and build on that, rather than just kind of arrive with your pre-made plan to do exactly what you have thought was necessary and conceived in a different place, in a different context, right? So I think it starts with the relationship. We've got to take the time to really understand what's happening within a community, and then ask if we may serve alongside that community and say, can we help you and can we support you?
Presumably your medical role it didn't involve much leadership?
Well, I think when you qualify as a pharmacist, then you are pretty much required to, from day one, to effectively lead a team, because the way that pharmacy works in the UK is that a pharmacy can't open without a pharmacist. So you're responsible for everything that happens within that premise for that day. And then certainly when we travelled to Haiti, I was leading the team. So we were about 24 to 25 strong, each team that went out to support the operation of health clinics in remote communities.
And do you miss it, that aspect of the job?
I miss the opportunity of working really, really closely face-to-face with patients. I used to particularly enjoy working in drug addiction services, and I always felt that I had an opportunity to be a smile and to be a face and to be a welcome to some people that are often excluded from society or looked down upon. So I really miss the opportunity to work on a daily basis with those who were struggling with drug addiction. And also towards the end of being a pharmacist, I worked in palliative care, and we had this unique privilege of being around and helping people who were in their last few days of life. And so you clearly miss that opportunity to be really close with patients, but I don't actually miss the actual job itself, no.
This is the breakfast show, and a lot of love coming in for Fix It Phil, actually, who is at the moment manning the cameras, and people saying, tell him he's doing a great job. Well, Fix It Phil, you're doing a great job on the cameras, so well done. And you can see what is happening by going to our Facebook page, so be sure to give it a share. And we've got some great guests coming on, and the purpose of this show is to, get into the heart of compassion and find out where your money's going to and who it's helping. But also, do you know, how is the organisation ran? Because you never really hear other charities talk about this. It's a case of, if you'll support us, that's great, but we want you to hear from the people who work in the post room, from the volunteers to the people who work in comms and all that kind of stuff. We'll be talking to Tim, a familiar voice, towards the end of the show. We've been told, try and cut him down to about 10 minutes if you can, because he does tend to waffle. Is that true, Justin?
Tim is a man of many words, and they're usually all very, very wise and well considered. So I would not put it in the waffle category.
So tell us about that transition then, from you were a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And then you became the CEO of Compassion UK. Now, presumably it was not just from one job into that role.
No, it wasn't. I had the privilege of running a team in Haiti who were involved in the fundraising and the design and construction of a hospital in Haiti. So as I kicked off that, I didn't have any sort of fundraising skills or significant knowledge of where we were going to get that. But after the earthquake in Haiti, we really felt that we should respond and support this community. So I got involved in that. We had to raise just over $2 million and construct an earthquake-resistant hospital in Haiti, which we did over a period of 3 or 4 years. And really, as I did that, I began to understand what fundraising looked like. I began to get a bit more experience. And once the hospital was on the verge of opening, Compassion asked if I'd come on and help them with their major donor fundraising. So my first job here was to help start up and build the major donor fundraising team at Compassion all the way back in 2016. 2011. And then in 2016, I became CEO.
And did you feel overwhelmed by that transition? Now, I'm not saying that because I don't think you're the right person for the job, but in leadership, sometimes you can feel a bit overwhelmed and think, actually, am I the right person for this?
Yeah, I'm not sure if overwhelmed is the right word, but I think if we're not slightly nervous each day in terms of have I got everything that I need to do this job, I think sometimes that can lead to us becoming a little bit complacent. So absolutely, you come in thinking, as a Christian, as a Christ follower, I'm like, I really need to make sure that I sense God's presence with me today, because this is a big responsibility. We're here to seek to release children from poverty in Jesus' name, and I lead this team of wonderful people here in Compassion UK. So I got to make sure that I'm prepared and ready for that. So I guess I never want to feel too comfortable and just think, oh, I'm just in the groove, this is easy. Because we want to push ourselves, and we want to make sure that we are delivering the very best for the children that we're called to serve. So I would say it's that kind of sort of excitement, and also understanding in pursuit of excellence, we need to make sure that we're getting better each and every day, right?
And how is that measured? So how do you know that you are hitting the mark, that you're helping the people that you're meant to help?
Yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, essentially, we work with just over 2 million children, and each one of those children is registered to one of 8,000 frontline church partners. So I guess essentially what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're reaching more children more quickly. So it's very easy to see how many children are registered in projects that are supported through the Compassion UK office. So at the highest level, that's what we talk about. We talk about how many individual children's lives are we impacting, and each of those children are being monitored by those frontline church partners. We're looking for them to progress towards outcomes which will indicate ultimately they are being released from poverty in Jesus' name. So I think for all of us here at Compassion, if you asked all of the team, they would say actually at the top line, we're looking for how many children are we reaching, and how quickly can we increase the number of children that we're reaching.
And it's not just about the sort of the practical things, is it? It's about that feeling that goes through the workforce and the team that you've got. And you were using the word team a lot there, because, do you know, you've got a lovely team here. You really have. Where we arrived, and they're all so welcoming, they're all so friendly, and the building that you've got as well.
Sure.
It all goes, because if you've got a happy workforce, then results happen, don't they?
Sure.
And
yeah, I think something that's really important to us here is, and we talk a lot about, is building the culture that we want. And we have cultural attributes. And for us, that is something we're building towards. We'll never actually get to the perfect culture. I'm not sure it exists anywhere.
It isn't far off, though, here.
Well, I mean, we would like to think that it's a good and it's a healthy culture, and we actively seek to build it. It's not just words on a wall. We're actively talking about it to all of our team on a regular basis. How are you contributing to the culture? How are we building the culture? What is the type of culture that we want to have here? Because absolutely, we believe that God brings people to this ministry to serve for a specific season. And when they're here, how can we set them up to thrive in their role? And if that role is for a long time or for a short time, we still want them to thrive in that role. And we believe that if they're thriving in that role, they'll be able to contribute the very, very best version of themselves to this ministry. And we believe the children that we're serving deserve that. So, yeah, absolutely, we want to make sure. I think it's pointless if God gives you 150 people and you don't consider how can we make sure that we harness the resource of 150 people in the very, very best ways. And surely if they're individually thriving and thriving as a team, that's going to allow you to serve and carry out more of what you hope to do.
We are joined, and you'll be able to see this on your cameras now. We know that Sue Rinaldi was going to come down. Now, Sue Rinaldi, a performer in her own right. She's done Top of the Pops. She's done Wembley. There's not many people who can say that. But she also lives near Compassion UK HQ. And she said, I'll pop in if I can. Well, she has popped in, and she's here with us. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning. It's just a 2-minute car ride away, so how could I not?
And it's great, but also weird to meet you. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean because we do talk on a daily basis, and you're a presenter with Konnect Radio. We've never met before in person.
And it's actually really good to know that you're a real human being and not some kind of robot.
AI.
A chatbot. Konnect chatbot.
And this is very useful now, because I could just set you off on a bit of a tangent, really. Because Justin, who's the CEO of Compassion, knows Sue, and there's some relationship with the building that we're in now. So who wants to start this conversation off?
Yeah, I can. I think we the reason we're in this building is we were previously renting a building about 45 minutes from here. And at relatively short notice, the landlord decided they wanted to convert it into flats, so they asked us to move. So we began praying, saying, Lord, we really need you to show us where we can move to and provide a facility for us. we had the opportunity to come and visit this building, and we had a period of negotiation back and forth, and then eventually we were able to buy it. And it was when we actually moved in, one of the local pastors, Christopher, actually came to meet with me, and he was actually in tears, and he was saying, I really want you to know that a year ago our church looked at purchasing this building to see if we could convert it into a church building, and we just felt as a leadership team it wasn't right for us. But we also felt that we should dedicate this building for the purposes of the Lord, and so we walked around it in prayer as a team and just dedicated this building, and we had no idea what that meant. And then when we moved in, one of the first things I did was reach out to all of the ministers in the local area to say, we're here and we'd like to serve you, and come and use the facility if you want to. So when he came to share this testimony, he saw it as a real fulfillment of that which their team had sensed in the Spirit a year earlier. So we asked them and offered them the opportunity to use the facility when they did, and they had a couple of services here when their building wasn't available, and Sue was leading worship for the church when they had their services here.
So when Sue's limo arrived at the front door,
couldn't get in the car park to begin with. So
what was that feeling like?
Yeah, I just got Adele to lead worship instead. She was sort of next to me. I think the other thing about Compassion is, as a church, I help lead Fleet Baptist Church. We've supported a lot of their projects over the last few years, and it is phenomenal what they do. And just the culture, which I was just hearing Justin talk about, the culture of what they do and the heart behind what they do. So as a church, we totally support them. And
when was the last time that you saw each other, in fact?
Probably
a
couple of years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So just to make our listeners aware what's going on here. So we're from... we're broadcasting from Compassion UK, the headquarters. Sue Rinaldi does our Sunday breakfast show between 8 and 10. And we've got Justin, who's the CEO of Compassion UK. Sue will have to shoot off soon because you've got things to do, haven't you?
I do. Yeah, I just thought I have to come and see you in person.
And it is a real joy to meet you. And also
to come back to Compassion offices. I've not been here for a while, so it is a great building, but there you go. Houses good work. And
so you would have seen this building, Sue, before Compassion moved in, presumably.
I think so. Yeah, I think when we first prayed here and prayed about it, because as Justin said, we were looking for a building, but this is great. And pleased to support it.
So when we had a brief tour of it yesterday, we went to what used to be the original entrance. And I hope you don't mind me saying, but it was apparent that it used to be a council building because of sort of how it was. And you decided that you needed a better entrance on it, so that's what you've done. And literally, you and the team, you've transformed this place, and it just feels so fresh. It feels a real nice place to be working at. Now, how much of an involvement did you and the team at Compassion have on what the building will look like and what you wanted it to be used for?
Well, actually, team is a really great word, because we decided what we would do is we'd offer our Compassion UK. We tend not to use the word staff, but at the time it was our Compassion UK staff, the opportunity to be involved in the office project. And at the time, about 28 of our team said, hey, we'd like to be involved. We'd like to be brought on the journey. And so we actually worked with that team and with the designers to say, okay, what are the elements that we want to take from our old office into this one? What are the new ways of working that we want to consider? And how do we want to lay the facility out and lay the building out? So absolutely, we would determine that it wouldn't just be a management decision sitting somewhere in a corner office saying, do this, do that, and then we'll move. We really wanted to bring the team on the journey. And so we had visits down here. As I say, we allowed them to really and let us know what would create an environment that would allow them to thrive in their roles.
And one thing that you've done, I thought that was always there because it looked like it has always been there. Just explain the sort of... So the top floor, you've got a bit cut out. I'm not explaining this very well at all, but basically, you'll see it on the pictures that we've put on our social channels, but you've got... In fact, over to you. How do you explain it? What is it? Because we absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that it was possible to really have cross-team collaboration at Compassion. We wanted to make sure there were no silos, and so we did cut out a large piece of the floor on the first floor.
As you do, obviously.
Yeah, and we effectively put in what's called an atrium, which is like a sort of stepped seating, if you like. So there's an area right in the middle of the building where conversations can happen, people going up and down the stairs on a regular basis, they're interacting with one another, they're meeting people from different teams, and we really wanted to make sure that was something that happened when people worked here, because especially actually, we designed it before the pandemic, but now that working from home is such seen as the norm, we wanted to feel like a bit of an experience actually coming to the office. So people don't think, oh, I've got to go to the office today. But actually, okay, it feels and looks different to working from home. And there's some tasks that are better suited to working from home. But actually, when I'm in the office, I've got the opportunity to have those impromptu conversations, to discuss ideas with other people. And so that central focus in our office just creates a space for that to happen and for team meetings to happen.
And over the time you've had that, how many people have fallen down those stairs?
Just one, actually.
Just one?
Yeah. It's not.
Are they okay? Or
they actually did get relatively injured, actually.
Oh,
so,
no. There was me thinking about,
that's
are
why
they alive still?
That's why I'm not laughing like you are.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
So, they ended up going to hospital, sadly.
Are they okay now? Are they alive still?
Yes, they're okay now. Absolutely, yes.
Goodness for that.
So we had to start putting signs up saying, please hold the handrail as you go up and down the stairs.
I did notice those.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you noticed it, because that means
that's the point of them being there, isn't it, really?
Right place.
Yeah, going downstairs.
That's the thing, isn't it? So you've got stairs, but platforms that people can work from and they can sit on, and when you have a staff get-together, which we will be doing later, actually.
Sure.
Looking forward to this.
Yeah.
A prayer session.
Absolutely.
That's where it happens.
Absolutely, yeah, right in the middle of the office. We wanted to craft a space where everybody could come together. We've also got AV facilities there, so we've got the opportunity to share latest videos so that we can inspire the team from what's happening in one of the countries in which we are currently serving. So it's a really great central space for us.
And Sue, you used to work closely with Compassion. You were an ambassador, is that right?
Yeah, a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
and how important, because you've worked in ministry for such a long time, how important are partnerships? How crucial is it for the bigger picture?
Well, I think a lot of the work of charities, not just Compassion, is to get the message out. And so if you are an ambassador, a lot of people are artists, either visual artists, poets, musicians, songwriters. It basically just gets the message out in other means, not just a video or a spoken word, but through a song, through poetry. It gets the message out to such a wide audience of people. And I think people trust people. So if there's a trusted person trusting something else, then there's just that there's that chord of trust that goes through. So, if you are an ambassador for something like Compassion, it isn't just the stage concerts, it's just in conversation, in whenever, in songs. And I've written a song called King of Compassion, actually. So, it wasn't particularly for Compassion.
And ladies and gentlemen, she's going to perform it live right now.
There you go. It just carries the message. So I think you are just announcers of this new kingdom, and I think people trust people. So if there's somebody like myself or others who really, trust Compassion or another charity, they go, yeah, there must be something really good. So very important.
You need to shoot off now.
I do need to shoot off. That's why I'm talking really fast.
Just quickly, as you're here, I want to say thank you to you, because your show every Sunday blows our socks off, and our audience absolutely love it. You've got a voice which is almost like treacle going off a spoon into a warm bath. That is how we'll describe your voice, Sue.
Thank you. Nice and
sticky.
It's
so soothing. And the music that you play as well, it's just perfect for that Sunday morning, and it's to send encouragement to our listeners and just to make them feel better about things. So thank you for that.
Oh, I love it.
And a quick plug, what we can expect from this Sunday's show.
Oh my goodness, you're asking ahead of time. Who knows, some new Spring Harvest tracks, maybe, lots of good stuff there.
Good stuff. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Sue, it is a pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you.
And wonderful to meet you. Take care, Sue.
Slide out.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Live radio at its best there. Sue Rinaldi popping in just to say hi. This is Konnect Radio, where we are live from Compassion HQ, Compassion UK. And if you don't know who they are, then where have you been? Because basically we've got jingles all the time going out telling you who they are. But maybe you're new to the station. Well, welcome. And you can be viewing this on Facebook Live. And we're joined for the last section, really, by Justin Dowds, and he is the CEO of Compassion UK. We've got more guests lined up. We're not doing a classic disco this morning because we want to fit in as many of these guests as possible. And I just want to ask you a little bit more about teams, and in particular, volunteering, because this is massive for you, isn't it, volunteering?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are so grateful for our Compassion volunteers. They serve in every area across the ministry. We have volunteers who come into Compassion House and help us in post-room and other areas. We have volunteers who take week holiday to go and stand on one of our stands at something like Spring Harvest or New Wine, for instance. We have volunteers that are out and about speaking on our behalf in churches and at events across the country every single week. Even our board of trustees, they're volunteers who give their time and energy to make sure this ministry is governed. So when we talk about team, we really try to be as inclusive. So I said earlier, we tend not to talk about staff. It's because people can automatically assume that you've excluded the volunteers. And for us, we want to try and build that concept of those who are employed and those who are volunteers together in one team. So, we're really grateful for people. In fact, I was at a volunteer conference on Saturday in Leeds and just being given the opportunity to say thank you to these volunteers, because without them, we wouldn't be able to reach as many children as quickly as we do. And they have real authenticity with when they're telling their friends, this is what I do, but not only do I financially contribute and do I sponsor a child, but I give my time and I give some of my holidays to serve this ministry because I believe in it so much. And with that authenticity, people are thinking, okay, I can really trust this person. And that really helps us reach more children.
And the final question, you're a very busy man, so you'll have to go soon. When will you know that you've sort of succeeded in what you wanted to achieve? So when will you say, actually, I wanted to do this, I've done it, and now maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to do something different.
Sure. I think that's a really interesting question. I think when I became CEO, I said to the board, I wanted to hold this position lightly. I wanted to have it with an open hand posture rather than a tight gripped one. And I wanted to discern with them what God was calling me to do. And so I said, look, at any time that they feel that they want a change of direction or a change of leadership, that conversation will be an easy one for them to have with me. So for me personally, I haven't got some sort of specific goal that is like, once I reach that, I'm leaving Compassion. I want to commit every single day to do the very best I can. I want to bring the very best version of myself. I want to coach and mentor and lead this team. And when I feel I've got to the stage that God is calling me somewhere else, or the board say it's time for us to bring in new leadership, I want to make that a really easy conversation for them, not a difficult one, because ultimately I love this ministry. I love this mission. I want to see many more children released from poverty, and the last thing I want to do is become a stumbling block to accelerating that as quickly as possible. So it's not a specific goal that I have, but just a sense of I want to be here, give my absolute all every day I am. And I just really believe, as I've placed my trust with all of my life decisions in God's hands before, that he'll make it clear to me when that season is over.
Well, Justin, it's been a privilege to speak with you in a professional environment rather than a car park in Manchester.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your time, and remember, Compassion there on the socials. Go and have a look at their website and find out what they're doing.